Chop Not Slap Show. It's OG Ron C and DJ Candlestick.
Shop Stars, OVO Gang.
DJ Candlestick. One time for the homie DJ School.
Shout out to that boy DJ Candlestick on the mix. In this episode of the Rockets Chop Shop Pod, I'm going to get into some trade scenarios. Draft night is quickly approaching for the Houston Rockets. What do they do? Do they trade up? Do they draft the pick? Do they trade back? I mean, there's a lot of ways that we can go with this, but I'm going to give you some trade ideas, and y'all let me know what y'all think about them, man. So tap in, enjoy. So shout out to y'all, man. I just came off the Bleacher Report live stream. Sorry, the app glitched. I guess y'all was in there a little rowdy. We was in there real deep. I seen the chat with the CSG members in there showing love to your boy. Appreciate all the support on there. I don't know if it was too many people in the room, but the app crashed. So most of y'all didn't get to see my trade ideas for the Bleacher Report live stream that I did. I'll be doing another live stream with them at the end of the month. Hopefully they can get that straightened out, but that's another story. But I did want to get this content out. And, I love being harassed by people in the comments on YouTube for having terrible trade ideas. So in that spirit, I wanted to make sure that I was able to make you guys mad to start the week with some of my trade ideas. I promise I'm not trading Jabari. I'm not trading none of the young guys. So you guys don't have to, don't have to get crazy with me. If you dislike the trade, just let me know. We all adults, we can talk about it. But I'm going to give you all three trades, right? I'm going to trade up. I'll save that one for last. I'm going to trade back, and I'm going to keep the pick and just make a trade that really, doesn't really impact the drafting at number 4. We'll go based on the spiciness of each trade. And I think the least spicy one got to be just drafting the pick. Okay. And this trade to draft the pick, if we drafted a pick, a trade that I would love for the Rockets to make would be, for one, Christopher Emmanuel Paul. The reason I love this trade for the Rockets because it addresses multiple things. So let's go over the details of this trade. And this is us drafting at number 4. And to me, once you get Chris Paul on your team, it really doesn't matter who you draft. Because whoever you draft, they're going to be groomed under one of the best teachers in the game, one of the best point guards in the game. This helps everybody on the team. He is a type of player that doesn't need the ball to be effective, and he doesn't have to play 25 30 minutes a game. You could really just play him low 20s, have him contribute off the court, a lot of helping coaching the guys on the court so they can see things in real time, the value that he brings as a teacher in his mind. If you guys really want to tap into Chris Paul inside of the game, you can watch his interviews. He just did one with the pivot, which I loved. And it's been rumored that the Phoenix Suns aren't really looking to pay him his 2 years left on the salary. So I think that 2-year window, you're going to hear me say with James Harden as well, is a perfect kind of little spot where you can take on really whatever you want, you think can help your guys develop and take a shot, whether at trying to be competitive or just keep going on with development, because after those 2 years are up, then you got to start paying guys. And that's why I love these 2-year contracts. Now, on Chris Paul's side, I don't know why he would want to come to Houston. I guess he would have to pretend that Tillman Fertitta did not say that he had the worst contract in NBA history. I guess he also has to pretend what he did speak on that pivot episode of Daryl Morey basically lying to him and trading him after he told him he wouldn't trade him. But business is business, and he's going to have suitors around the league. But maybe the Rockets can make it worth his while. I don't know. But let's just imagine. Let's pretend in this world how we can get Chris Paul. So the way this trade looks for this trade, it would be Chris Paul coming to the Rockets. And what we're going to be sending out is 4 second round picks. My bad. Y'all tripping. Y'all was going to hang me for that. 4 second round picks. And it's going to be the OKC 2024 second round pick, the Golden State Warriors 2024 second round pick. Then 2 of 2025s, 1 from Minnesota, 1 from OKC. The reason that a team like Phoenix would want second round picks going forward is because they're a contender. And you can see a great example of what just happened of why. And we just saw in this previous trade deadline how many second round picks were moved around for quality players. Right, a lot of trades were made for quality players using seconds, probably one of the most in recent history, and the added benefit for contenders. And we saw what Denver did during the middle of the finals. They're making trades with OKC to get off some of their picks, to get second round picks and late picks. This is because of money, right? With this new CBA, teams that go over the apron, the second apron, it really cripples what they can do, right, in team building. So as a team that's a contender, when you have big salaries like the Devin Bookers of the world, the Aidens, the Kevin Durant's on your contract sheet, it really cripples what you can do team building forward. So these teams are going to adjust. They're getting smart. They're taking second round picks because you could still get great players in the second round. You don't have to pay them anything. They're going to be pretty much minimum contracts on your roster. Some of them could actually contribute to winning without hurting your cap sheet. And you also get the fact that the assets are valuable because other contenders may want second round picks to get off of players that maybe aren't being utilized, like half the roster of the Brooklyn Nets. So that's the rationale behind Phoenix doing that. Plus, here's the kicker, though. They also get to sign James Harden. Now, there have been some, talks. I don't know whose camp is saying that James would be open to going to Phoenix. I don't know if Phoenix would want him. But I think for me, for James to, not look like he's just running from the grind. Like, bro, go get you a ring, bro. Go get you a ring, dog. You know what I mean? So I think James should go to a contender. If he's not going to stay in Philly, go to a contender, bro. Stop running from this and get in there. Get your, I think a good salary for him would be a 2-year salary over there in over there in Phoenix, because it matches up with Kevin Durant's salary. He has 3 years left. Booker is going to be there for the next few years. Aiden is there for 3 more years. So basically what you do is the Suns are going to open up a 2-3 year window of trying to be a competitive team. They might even give Harden a 2+1 to be there. And you just take a couple swings with KD, James Harden, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton, and seems that could win you a chip. That's a big upgrade from Chris Paul at this point in his career. And James doesn't have to be the man. He can play point guard next to 2 killer scorers, 2 buckets. You know what I mean? He gets a lob threat with DeAndre Ayton. I think it's a no-brainer. It fits within their cap space, and they're below the second apron, so they can still use some of their exceptions. So I think this is a good trade for them. For us, like I said, we get that veteran leadership. We get the point guard to help out whoever the hell we draft. And even if it's Amen Thompson or Scoot or Brandon Miller, Jalen gets to work with Chris Paul. Sengun gets to work with Chris Paul. Jabari gets to work. I think it's a win-win. You get that much leadership. Chris Paul, Ime Udoka, you can't lose, bro. And we seen what he did with OKC. We see what he did on Phoenix. He's a guy that's going to turn your franchise into a winner. And I think that would be a great trade if we decide not to do nothing, if Chris Paul would allow it. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that trade. Let's move on to the next one. So the next trade, this one is, I call this one the Harden stays trade, but it's not the Harden stays or Harden comes back like, people, or he would want to come back. This is going to be Harden on a short-term deal. And this trade, you don't have to blow up your core. And this is where you actually trade back, right? We're going to trade back with this trade. And here are my trade. So I had proposed this on Locked On Rockets that we shot. I don't know which video is going to come out first, but you might be hearing this again for the second time. But I think this trade is a good idea because, one, the Rockets still get to draft a pretty good player in the draft, and you're threading the needle of being competitive with James Harden. And in this trade, we are actually going to be sending the number 4 pick to the Indiana Pacers, and they're going to give us their pick, which is the number 7 pick. And in return for making that move, we're going to give them a top 8 protected Brooklyn pick for 2024 as well. It's going to be top 8 protected. So in case we crash out, we still have the ability to draft in a top 8. So that has protections. And the current pick, basically we swap with them. They get 4, we get 7. And for doing that, we get Myles Turner back, right? We get Myles Turner, the 7th pick from the Pacers. And then we can sign James Harden to free agency. The reason I love the Myles Turner addition, one, obviously he fits with Sengun. It gives us a different dimension and addresses literally all the stuff that, that we have weaknesses at right now. He's one of the most elite rim protectors in the NBA right now. Myles is also a great three-point shooter. So you can pair him up with different lineups that include Alp, that include Jabari, that include different guys, Garuba. You give James a guy that could be a lob threat, a pick and pop partner, and a great vet. Another great vet to work with Jabari and some of the younger guys, Tari, on the team. Why would the Pacers do it? The reason I would say that the Pacers would want to draft a top 4 pick in this draft is because I look at their roster and they're not going anywhere, right? There's not enough blue chip talent on their roster. Besides Halliburton, Ben Mathurin looks like a bucket, but he's not a great playmaker. They don't have a lot of playmaking on the roster, a lot of utility players. Getting in the top 4 allows them to be able to go get a guy to pair up with Hallie that could possibly be an all-NBA player. I don't know how many guys they have on their roster. Where does Myles Turner really move the needle for them to become a contender? And they to me don't have enough blue chippers. And in a market as small as Indiana, you want to take as many chances as you can to get a star player. Maybe they get lucky and Men Thompson is the goods, or maybe Brandon Miller is the goods. Maybe they get scooped. Is the goods. And that's my rationale for them taking on this. They also get a future first out of the deal as well. Kind of help them restock a little bit into us. It's a top 8 protected. So what does Houston really look like picking, 9th or 10th next year for that Brooklyn pick? If it falls down that low, doesn't really hurt us. But if it falls into that, top 5 range because we suck, then, all of a sudden, then you still have the ability to trade the pick, draft the player next year, etc. I like this trade because you're threading the needle. Harden is on a 2-year contract. It has been rumored. There's a new report that came out, and with this morning, I think it was Stephen A. Smith quoted. Let me see if I can quote it for you guys. What Stephen A. Smith says.
Let me put a period on this narrative in regards to what people not understanding, rather, why Houston is in the mix, particularly considering the young team that they have.
Yep.
Figure out how I know. I'm not guessing. I'm telling you what I know. I'm going to put this story to bed right now. James Harden was in Houston. James Harden wanted out of Houston. James Harden wanted to go with Daryl Morey to Philadelphia. There was no way that Tillman Fertitta, Rockets ownership, was going to let that happen. They were not going to let Daryl Morey walk out the door and then take their star player with them. It was not going to happen. James Harden insisted. He wanted that to happen. Remember, he showed up out of shape. Remember, he was missing, some training camp stuff and all of this. All of those storylines were going on. Ultimately, what happened is Brooklyn became an option because Philadelphia wasn't going to be an option. When James Harden wanted out the door, James Harden basically said, I am more than open to coming back. Just let me get away and give me an opportunity to try and win a championship, because clearly you guys are moving in a different direction, and we're not going to have a team to win a championship. Houston obliged with the understanding that if there was an accord that could be reached down the line, they would be receptive to bringing him back, and he would be receptive to coming back, because obviously as an organization, they treated him well, he treated them well. And that's where all of this comes from. The problem is that in order for James Harden to hint towards going back, and I don't believe he's going back. I don't even believe he wants to go back, but he just wants his money. And you're thinking if there's one organization that'll give you the money, it'll be them. Well, I would say to you that ain't gonna happen, because after watching him in this postseason, they might be willing to give him a 2-year deal. They ain't willing to give him a 4-year deal, particularly at max dollars. And so because of that, I really don't see that happening. But everybody that's acting like they don't know, let me erase that right now. Stop acting like you don't know. I just told you what happened. He wanted out. And he basically made an agreement with them, and they made an agreement with him that it is something that we would try to work out in the future. If we let you go now for a couple of years, you go someplace else, you try to capture that championship, then you could potentially come back. If we're interested in you, you're interested in us, we can have a conversation. That's what this is all about right now, because that's what it took for James Harden to get the hell out of Houston to begin with. And since they wouldn't send him directly to Philadelphia, the next option was joining KD and Kyrie in Brooklyn. That's what that was all about. That's the only reason Houston is in the conversation right now. They don't really need him.
Clear that up for you?
He doesn't really need them.
This is Stephen A. talking. I don't believe he's going back. Speaking of Harden, I don't even believe he wants to go back. He just wants his money. I've been telling y'all about this for a while. He says, you're thinking if there's one organization that will give you the money, it'll be them. I would say to you, that ain't going to happen, because after watching him in this postseason, they might be willing to give him a 2-year deal, but they ain't willing to give him a 4-year deal, particularly at max dollars. Because of that, I really don't see it happening. So once again, I've been telling y'all this. Harden has been about everything but getting a ring as far as with the Houston talk. It's always about the family, the restaurant, the vibes. Yeah, that's all cool, bro. But I'm not paying you, you know what I mean? I'm not paying you 200 mil to come here and vibe out, right? To be at, you know what I mean, the happy hour on Sundays, to be at the local, gentlemen's establishments, getting your groove on. Like, we're not paying you for that. If we're gonna pay a guy a 200, yeah, he gotta be talking chips. And we're just not ready yet. We don't have the infrastructure for that. So 2-year 80, 2-year 80. Yeah, let's talk 85, 90. We can get frisky with a 2-year salary. And I think that's doable with the Harden thing. So in this trade, that's what I'm looking at. A 2-year deal for James Harden. You get Myles Turner, who has 2 years left on his contract. You still get to draft number 7. Who's going to be there at 7? Maybe Asar Thompson is there at 7. Maybe Cam Whitmore slips down to 7. Maybe you get Jarris Walker over there at 7. I've heard of people saying Grady Dick could go as high as 7. I mean, there's a lot of good players still left. Anthony Black, there's still a lot of players in the draft at that 7 spot that you'd be able to draft from that Pacers swap that we make in this. Add a young player. You're adding Myles Turner, a guy that is going to be somebody that you could really use and actually improve the team short and long term, maybe even work out a deal to keep him longer. And you're keeping your core. Nobody's stepping on anybody's toes with this deal. And the best part of this, you still have cap space. You could sign James Harden free agency, bring in Myles Turner via trade, and have about $12 million to go out and add maybe a Brook Lopez or I don't know if Cam Johnson, he probably gets too expensive there unless you want to go into your exceptions. But you could still add shooting and just some depth, maybe the Bruce Browns of the world and things like that. So I like this trade in a vacuum. And like I said, I'm not like somebody that's like, I just hate James Harden. I just don't think that you're bringing to him as a guy you're going to invest that much money in. You know what I mean? So I think this kind of threads the needs of both short-term and long-term goals. So y'all let me know what y'all think about that trade. That might be one of my favorites on this these 3 trades. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Okay, so this last trade, this is the one that's gonna get y'all going. I know y'all hate whenever we do this, so I wanted to make sure I pissed everybody off equally. So we're gonna try to do that. Let's try to pull this off. Okay, so this is gonna be a trade that allows us to actually trade up to 2, because y'all know I love Scoot Henderson, and I don't care if you hate Scoot Henderson. Frank loves Scoot Henderson, right? So I'm on this pod, so I'm gonna assume that we all love Scoot Henderson. We're gonna go up to 2 to go grab him, right? We're gonna go get Scoot at 2 from Charlotte. And so what this trade is gonna look like, it's gonna get a little hectic, but I'm gonna try to slow it down and make sense of it. Okay, so I'm gonna go through all what people are benefiting, what 3 teams are benefiting. So it's gonna be Charlotte is gonna be in this trade, Brooklyn is gonna be in this trade, and the Rockets obviously is gonna be in this trade. Why would Charlotte want to trade the number 2 pick? Well, one, they are a team that's been kind of in the middle of nowhere forever, and adding another possible rookie that could come in and maybe help them, maybe not help them, maybe fit with their best player, maybe not fit. I don't know. That's a kind of a middle of nowhere type of move. They're not really trying to tank, but they tank because they suck. And here they got lucky and got up to the draft. LaMelo was hurt. A lot of guys were hurt. Miles Bridges was locked up or wherever he was in Siberia. But they have a lot of things. They got to sign PJ Washington. They got Miles Bridges. They have the shell of a team that's ready to compete. So why not make that move to try to compete with this asset that you have now, especially if the player that's slotted there, the 2 players that may go at 2, Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson. Brandon Miller a little bit more, so I can see that happening, but also the intrigue of Scoot Henderson for them, I don't know if they can pass that up. But if they did want to go to become a contender or some team that could compete, seeing that the East is open, I would say they have a need for a player that would pair up well with LaMelo that could also address some needs like shooting and defense. And what better player than Mikal Bridges? And you're going to say, well, Brooklyn said that they're not moving on for Mikal Bridges. Well, that's cap. Most teams are capping. Everybody has a price. It just depends on what one is willing to pay for it. And I'm going to assume that there is a price that Brooklyn may be interested in. They might or might not do this, but we'll see. So Hornets want to be competitive. So we're going to say that we call the Hornets and call Brooklyn. So we're on a three-way call. We're working out this trade. And Houston wants the number 2 pick. Hornets want to be competitive. Houston calls Brooklyn and says, hey, Sean Marks, hey, bro, I know y'all have been, against the wall trying to put this together. Kyrie left, KD left, Harden left. You're trying to put all these scraps together. You got a great player in Mikal Bridges, but does that really move the needle for you, man? Don't you guys just want to start from scratch and really build this thing the right way? Well, we can help you out. Here's what we're going to do, right? Okay, why don't we give you the number 4 pick, Brooklyn? Right? You get the number 4 pick. We'll give them this year's number 4 pick, and we'll throw in your next year's pick outright, just yours, going back to you. So you have this year's pick to draft in the top 4, plus next year's pick in case you suck and tank, which you probably will, to draft wherever you land. And, we'll also throw in the sweetener of taking on the albatross of a contract as Ben Simmons back to Houston. So the Rockets are going to absorb, and shout out, somebody on the channel actually suggested this trade, and I like it. And the Ben Simmons to Houston is not for playing. I don't care what he does in Houston. He could be here working his back out, pause, for, for the rest of the season. I don't care. He could be here. But it's a 2-year contract. So you eat that into your cap space. Once again, that 2-year window is really important to me because you start having to pay our guys after that 2 years. So you still can use your cap space as a weapon to get assets, right? So we take on Ben Simmons. That's worth what? 2 picks? Right? Trying to offload Ben Simmons is going to be worth 1 or 2 picks because it's really hamstringing them. And we're going to send over, sorry guys, Kevin Porter Jr. Over there to Brooklyn because he's technically an expiring for them. So they're going to free up cap space. They're going to get off of Ben Simmons, which is worth at least 1 or 2 first-round picks to get off of him. Plus, they get the number 4 pick, which could be Amen Thompson in Brooklyn. Maybe it's Scoot in Brooklyn. Maybe it's Brandon Miller in Brooklyn. And another first-round pick that is theirs outright in 2024. So I'm assuming they do that. Now, they're going to send, for us doing this favor to them, they're going to send Mikal Bridges over to Charlotte to be the star wing next to LaMelo Ball. And Charlotte is going to send us the number 2 pick for our services for doing that. As a side deal, I wanted to throw in a extra, little move here where we actually send Charlotte the 20th pick in this year's draft for Gordon Hayward, right? So we can move Gordon Hayward I think him and Mikal are a bit redundant. Once you look at their roster with some of the guys they have, Mikal would basically be the Gordon Hayward. So we'll take him off their books. He is a guy that's an expiring salary. We'll give him a 20th pick for that. You're adding a veteran wing that's, a good player that's serviceable at shooting. He's not a terrible defender, great locker room guy. I love Gordon Hayward. I love the fact that he's an expiring salary. So if he wants to re-sign, maybe he wants to do a team-friendly deal to keep him on longer, or you can just walk away from him at the end of the year. But once again, you're adding Gordon Hayward, the corpse of Ben Simmons, the number 2 pick. You're going to add Scoot Henderson to the roster. And then guess what? You still have enough money to go ahead and sign a Cam Johnson, right? You can still make your move, sign the Cam Johnson, bring in or a guy in that vein, and still have money to do other moves around the edges. To me, I love this deal because it addresses multiple positional needs. It brings in veterans. It uses our cap space as a weapon to help us attain assets, and it still frees up that Ben Simmons slot, that $37 million he's going to be eating up. Guess what? That 2024 class of free agents is just beautiful. And there's going to be a lot more trades, guys that are available to be traded, like a Jalen Brown, right? So if he does at Boston, maybe they do max him out. Having $37.8 million Ben Simmons expiring, that's a pretty good weapon. So that's what I'm looking at that from, not from a basketball standpoint, right? So this trade to me is the three-team trade. You get Scoot. You can still sign Cam Johnson. You have the 2-year contract of Ben Simmons, sweeten that for the Nets. The Nets get to draft whoever they want, Amen Thompson, Scoot Henderson, Brandon Miller, whoever falls to them. They can tank this year and get into the lottery again for the next season and still have their cap space. They can flip all those first-round picks, and they can do a little mini rebuild. Unlike the Rockets, they can do it in 2 years, right? A little 2-year, little bang, bang, bang rebuild that they have, because even the year after that, the impact of us owning their pick is just a swap. So even if they weren't as good, and we're better than them, yeah, okay, like they don't get to draft, whatever. I don't know if we're going to be like the number one seed. So to me, it's a win-win. And then Hornets get a Mikal Bridges, as we've seen, who's a guy that is a bucket. He can guard. He plays multiple roles on the court, and is a player that may end up being better than we actually think he was. So those are my 3 trades: the trade up, trade down, and keeping the pick. I know y'all gonna have a lot to say about this because I already know how these trade shows work. So y'all let me know in the comments. And shout out to all the supporters. I saw you guys in the chat at the Bleacher Report live stream, even though it was a black screen with no audio. Y'all were coming out. Some of y'all stayed there longer, arguing with each other. Appreciate the support, man. They'll get that straightened out. That's on their end. I did what I was supposed to do. Y'all know I come prepared. I come ready. I had the goods ready, man. But they're gonna get that straightened out. Appreciate the support for the channel. Shout out to my co-host Space, bro. Space is back. Shout out to you, bro. If you're watching this, I know you're watching this. Just happy to have you back on the live stream. I know the channel is as well. All y'all show that boy some love. And yeah, bro, y'all keep rocking with us, and we gonna keep dropping that fire.